key connection between opium, China, and the British Empire revolves around the trade and conflicts of the 18th and 19th centuries, culminating in the Opium Wars. Here's a summary. 1. Background on opium and trade. Opium is a highly addictive narcotic derived from the poppy plant. In the 18th century, it was widely used for medicinal purposes but also became a recreational drug. China's economy. During the 1700s, China had a robust economy and produced goods like silk, tea, and porcelain, which were highly sought after in Europe. However, China was largely self-sufficient and demanded payment for its goods in silver, leading to a trade imbalance. 2. The British solution. Opium trade. The British East India Company, which controlled much of India, began cultivating opium in India and illegally smuggling it into China. By the early 19th century, millions of Chinese were addicted to opium. This reversed the trade imbalance, as Chinese silver flowed to British traders in exchange for the drug. 3. The Opium Wars. The Chinese government, recognizing the devastating effects of opium addiction, sought to end the trade, leading to two conflicts. First Opium War, 1839 to 1842. Cause. China cracked down on opium trade, including seizing and destroying opium stocks in Canton. Guangzhou. British response. Britain used military force to protect its economic interests, arguing for free trade. Outcome. Britain won, and the Treaty of Nanking, 1842, was signed. China ceded Hong Kong to Britain, opened several ports to foreign trade, and paid reparations. Second Opium War, 1856 to 1860. Cause. Continued disputes over trade and diplomatic rights. Outcome. China was again defeated and forced to sign more unequal treaties, further opening the country to foreign influence and legalizing opium trade. 4. Impact on China and the British Empire. China. The wars weakened China's Qing dynasty, leading to a loss of sovereignty, economic hardship, and internal rebellions. The Taiping Rebellion. British Empire profited immensely from the opium trade and expanded its influence in Asia. The wars also solidified Britain's role as a dominant global power. 5. Legacy. The opium trade is viewed as a dark chapter in British imperial history, symbolizing exploitation and the destructive consequences of colonialism. For China, the Opium Wars marked the beginning of the Century of Humiliation, a period of foreign domination and internal turmoil. Yes, the history of the Opium Wars and related events significantly affects how China views the West, even today. The Opium Wars and subsequent foreign domination are part of what China calls the Century of Humiliation, 1839-49, during which it suffered exploitation and subjugation by Western powers and Japan. This period has left a lasting impact on China's national identity, foreign policy, and relations with Western nations. Here's how. 1. Distrust of Western intentions. The Opium Wars are seen as examples of Western nations exploiting China for profit, regardless of the harm caused. This history has contributed to a deep-seated mistrust of Western motives, particularly in matters of trade, diplomacy, and intervention. Modern concerns over Western interference in Chinese sovereignty, issues in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Xinjiang, often echo this historical mistrust. 2. Strong emphasis on sovereignty. China's government places a high value on sovereignty and territorial integrity, often citing the unequal treaties imposed by Western powers after the Opium Wars as a reminder of why it must resist external pressures. This is evident in China's assertiveness over territories like Hong Kong, Taiwan, and the South China Sea. 3. Desire for global respect. The legacy of humiliation fuels China's ambition to restore its historical position as a global power. This is reflected in its economic, military, and diplomatic strategies, including the Belt and Road Initiative, and efforts to reform international institutions to better reflect China's influence. 4. Narrative of resistance. The Communist Party of China, CPC, uses the memory of the Opium Wars to legitimize its rule, portraying itself as the force that ended foreign domination and restored China's dignity. This narrative shapes public opinion and bolsters nationalism, with leaders frequently referencing this history in speeches and state media. 5. Challenges in Western relations. Western nations often frame their relationships with China around concepts like human rights, free trade, and democracy, which can clash with China's focus on sovereignty and historical grievances. Events like the Hong Kong protests or criticism of China's human rights records are often viewed by China as echoes of the imperialist attitudes of the 19th century. 6. Cultural pride versus Westernization. The Opium Wars are a reminder of a time when Western powers treated Chinese culture and governance as inferior. Today, China promotes cultural rejuvenation to counter Western cultural dominance and assert the value of its traditions and governance model. 7. Soft power efforts. To reshape global perceptions, China actively promotes its version of history and achievements, such as through Confucius Institutes, film, and diplomacy. It seeks to challenge Western narratives that historically painted it as weak or subordinate. Conclusion. The history of the Opium Wars serves as a powerful reminder for China of past injustices and fuels its determination to prevent a repeat of those events. This has created a complex relationship with the West, characterized by both cooperation and deep-seated tensions. Understanding this history is essential for navigating modern diplomatic and economic relations with China. Sent from my iPhone.